Yo, what's up guys? New video on a R5 team. I do know that R5 is currently not the most optimal thing to farm because, well, R5 drop rate, it's not that great. It's kind of there, but yeah, it's kind of the thing like too many random runes that we don't really care about. We're getting all of those runes the grinds for, so it's not that great. But if you want to make a team, and especially in the future where it maybe is better, if you want to make a team, this might be an interesting team to look at or at least get ideas from. Like, even if it's not specifically your team, getting ideas from this team is pretty solid because it's pretty much full free to play. It has a few 4-stars in there that you would have to obtain through scrolls, like the Shihua is in there, the Freya, the Miriam, and the Shaina. But it's just those 4 and they're 4-stars, so it's a lot easier than getting all of like 5-stars in there, specific things like Brandias, that kind of stuff, Liam's, whatnot. But the idea of this, even if you have different units that might be better, the idea of this is pretty strong because we have team damage in the middle, which is just a Belial team, but now with a family lead. But pretty much this is just team, like typical standard Belial. On the left side, we have a team that's mainly focusing on branding because we have the Shihua that brands, we have the Argon that brands, and we have the Ken that brands. So we have 3 branders over there. And then team on the right is going to be team Armor Break, where we have Armor Break, Armor Break, Armor Break. Also brand, but also armor break. So there's a lot of things for this whole team where there's a lot of armor breakers on these opposite sides. And that's also where normally you had the team where your Belial team actually moved and also armor broke, where you had their Lauren in there or Aprilia in there or like any unit in there. In this case, it's really separated in what team does what, and I think that's very useful in there, especially with Aprilia right now being one of the strongest armor breakers in the game. And we still have Lauren in here, and I think the Ikaru probably moves first, and therefore makes a hit in that as well, where we have that. So let's look at some of the runes. The Argon has a decent damage set, but it's nothing too crazy. It is third levels 37, can still be upped a little bit. We have Freya, just triple fives. We have the Ken, pretty decent set. The team on the left doesn't have will runes mainly because the Freya's in there, so it cleanses anyway, so you don't really need will runes. So then we have the Lorne. Okay, is the Lorne actually faster than the Ikaru? Wait, let me double check that. Ikaru is actually slower, so Ikaru moves afterwards. Okay, so the Lorne is probably first to move, then a few of those Brandis, and then Ikaru for like the second round. Okay, interesting, interesting. Middle team is just mainly all of those units, fight runes, fight runes, fight runes, fight runes. Like all 5 of them are fight runes. Jensen is actually not on will, which could lead into some speed issues if you get slowed, I guess. But, oh wait, for Jensen it's actually not an issue because he's actually the last one to move anyway. So, probably not an issue. We have the Bale that is somewhat better on runes. Is this super insane runes? I would say these runes are pretty good. These runes are, yeah, these are definitely pretty legit runes to get 2k and then 265. So, it's definitely not too easy to rune, I would say. And then on the other team, we have still a bunch more fight sets, more fight sets, more fight sets, a bunch of units that die, and more fight sets, pretty much. That's main take on it. I'm not entirely sure what is the reason for those 2 units. I think it's just units on fight that don't really do anything. Like, I'm not entirely sure if you actually need those 2 specific units. This one for sure not, but this one doesn't do anything on the passive that might help you with that. I'm not entirely sure. So you have those in, and that is that. So let's look at those runs. So what do we have happening over here? Well, middle team is just very simple, straightforward. That's going to be your Belial team, but it's going to be a Belial team that only works off Colleen into Bale, and therefore you already get the hit in. There's no armor break before that. It's just Bale and then, or it's just Colleen and then Bale, and then we have in the next rotation, we have the Jensen move, Jensen boosting up. And therefore we have, again, the Bale moving, and that's pretty much everything on that team. It does do a good amount of damage. Like 75k is a good hit, and you need the branding for that to actually hit that. You need either branding or Deborah to hit that. So, okay, its fastest time is 25. Sorry, it's not averaging 25, it's fastest 25. I thought for a second it was average 25. But I have that right in the thumbnail, probably. But... okay, so middle team, pretty straightforward. I think the next rotation he actually shows like how does that work on the other 2 teams, because Bale team we all have seen. We kind of know how it works, right? It's nothing too special. The only thing that is somewhat special about it is that there's no Lauren, there's no armor breaker in there. It just goes straight into the Bale pretty much. And the main thing that is slowing down the run is because you have a Jensen in there rather than having like a Raccooni in there. I'm not sure if you could actually make this team with a Raccooni as well and then having Raccooni moving less and then boosting up that Bale and then being a little bit faster than the animations of the Jensen. I think that's slightly faster, but not sure if that would exactly work out for him or that he actually needs the tuning on that Jensen to make it work. But I would say that it's probably doable to have that work. Also, what you can do, interestingly, is that you can have like fail safes for your Miriam and your other units moving in between. So the Bale doesn't move like a second time or the Jensen doesn't move at the time you don't want to. Make sure that your Miriam and also all of the other units that are probably going to die, that they cut in or that they move in between the first time of the Bale and then the next unit that you actually want to move after the jump. So the moment that these units move, they will not desync your team, they just slow down your team. That's the only thing. So I think for this one, he actually goes into checking the next team. So on the left team, we have, sacrifice happening. We have Lauren moving. Lauren going into a bunch of these branders. So actually all three of them use the brand. And as you can see, only two of them moved. So we have the Ken moving afterwards. The best thing is that your Ikaru moves right after. However, you have the difference in like when what moves, mainly on, well, just very simple, like what hat does what skill, because they have different animations for that and they have different length of animation for that. Also, interestingly enough, the Argon also dies on that hit, which does mean that the Argon doesn't end up in the team of the Ikaru, and the Argon will likely do I would say that the Argon probably does that team up is kind of useless, because Argon team up is just an S1 that doesn't do anything, whereas the S1 of the other two units do a lot more. Plus, I would say Argon is probably perfect AI for doing his S3 the moment there's enough debuffs on it. So I would say that this is pretty solid to get him into perfect AI range. We have that over here, and maybe the Jensen is needed to actually make it slow enough, because the moment that the Ikaru goes, the Ikaru takes up a bunch of units that also have S1 whatever debuffs. There is the armor break, there's maybe the brand already, there's the attack buff from the Ken, there's the slow from the Lauren as well. So you bring in a lot of that stuff on the team up of the Ikaru, which makes it that Ken will go for perfect AI S3 as well. So there's good perfect AI on that left team. Right team is probably just very simple armor breaker. So let's see how that actually works. So I thought Trillia would probably move first, but in this case, I do see, well, we have the Lauren moving first on one side, and we have the Shaina moving first on the other side. So that is probably already enough to actually do enough. So yeah, the right team is just about the armor break. So it's armor break and stall, I would say. And also backup branding, because I think that the Crow is also a backup brander here in this case. Let's actually have a look at that. Yeah, because I think that Shaina moves first. Yeah, Shaina moving first. Then we have the Crow moving. Then we have the Sarion moving, or the Theomars moving. And then the Prillia move. So the Prillia move is pretty much, you're kind of stalling like 3 animations just to get the move in. And I think I already know what he's doing with that lizard. That lizard is actually super smart. The fire lizard here is actually pretty smart, because the fire lizard provides another debuff. Because you provide that another debuff, the units that are scaling from enemy debuffs becomes more dominant to use that in a great AI. So that does mean that a Argon is more likely to use S3. That means that a Ken is more likely to use S3. And this team is actually pretty 5-up, because you see right away, with that we have 2 debuffs over here. With this, we probably have like enough debuffs that one of these units will perfect AI. Branding for therefore will always land. And that is the strong thing about this team. There's no Deborah, but the branding will always land. And because of the branding always landing, of being like smart in like putting as many debuffs on the enemy as possible, because right here, again, we have all of those debuffs in. And I think these units that scale from enemy debuffs, that they have perfect AI from 3 debuffs and up. And in this team, it pretty much always happens that you have 3 debuffs and up, which I would say is absolutely a very smart team. Would you talk about replacements for this team somewhere? I didn't test this team specifically myself. I couldn't log into the account of testing this team. But I would say that this is very solid. Like, even if you have like units like a Brandia or anything like that, do you really need to replace anything like this? Because I think it's not really going to get any faster than this. For like this specific team, like how this works, it is not gonna get any faster unless you start putting like an Odin towards one team, maybe a Liam towards one team. Like those kind of units, or a Katarina team, like those kind of units might make this faster. But I would say that this team is mainly built on your Bale having a very good set, and I think your Ken having a pretty good set. But besides that, I think those are the only two good sets, and then the rest is all just a bunch of fights. So if you happen to have one good Rage set or one good Fatal set, I think this team is pretty doable for a lot of people to make. You would need that Miriam. If you do not have the Miriam, but you happen to have a Deborah, Deborah could definitely fit in this slot as well. Kind of does the same thing, but different. I would arguably say that a Deborah would even provide more damage, but I'm not entirely sure after her nerf is that still the case. Sure, it's not a 22 to 24 second, but the averages of like, I think this one would probably run like 27 or 26 second average. It's definitely insane. So once again, highly appreciated for showing this team to me. Also, if any of you has like a very specific team on something that I didn't showcase yet, feel free to hit me up on like, well, Discord is probably the easiest way. It's 28 second average, definitely very nice. So yeah, definitely hit me up on Discord or any kind of way, and feel free to share the team to me, because I'm always like, if there's a team that I like, a lot of the teams I already showcased, I'm gonna be like, I already showcased that, so I already showcased that. But this is actually so specifically free to play based on perfect AI of placing the branding that it's new for me, didn't showcase this yet, and this is definitely something on my alt. The moment that it has good enough runes, I will probably be building something like this, because this is an amazing team. So guys, once again, thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe, and see you as always in the next one. And definitely also check out my Discord. In my Discord, I have this thing of guide archive and all of the dungeon teams that are good, that I would say are meta right now, whether for begin game, end game, if you have a Seraph, no Seraph, if you have Tasher, no Tasher, on pretty much all of the dungeons, including R5, Giants, Dragons, everything is going to be in there. So definitely recommend to join my Discord, check out that channel, and probably you can find like a few guides that can help you improve your dungeon team, either on like effectiveness, that it doesn't fail as often, or just simply in speed. So guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you later.